My name is Avrom, Caplan. I'm the Associate Dean for Research at CUNY's Central Office. I've been at CUNY for almost 6 years, and my colleague here.
Am I introducing myself now?
Yeah, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Effie MacLachlan, and I work, Avrom and I both work in the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research, Jillian Small. And I am the grant writer, grants administrator, and also research programs manager, and I administer this program we're here to talk about today, the Community College Grant. I'm actually a product of the Kingsborough alum. I got my PhD in political science from the Graduate Center. So I've been at CUNY for a long time.
So today we have a talk prepared for you, but the group is small, so we can sort of also have a discussion on what you want to discuss. And it'd be helpful for me to first find out who you all are and what you feel about.
Because we have a lot of slides. I mean, there is stuff, we can talk about just about the C3, or we could talk about other funding opportunities, or we could, it's really what sort of you'd like to hear.
So, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Stephanie, and I'm the Assistant Director of Academic Affairs. My name is Chris McClellan, and I'm the Director of Development. So, any of you who will be working on a proposal with work with me.
I'm Allison Vetter. I'm in behavioral sciences. I teach sociology and gender studies courses.
Irina Danilova, I am an architect and I'm teaching drawing and legal.
Valerie Sipolo, our department, and teaching graphic design courses.
Susan Spivak, I'm in graphic design as well.
Tracy Steffi, I'm in history, philosophy, political science. I teach political science and criminal justice.
We have 2 social scientists and 3 art department graphic designer.
I've just been handed another sign-in sheet, just in case anyone hasn't signed it enough times. We can always do that. So, okay. So for about 20 years, the university has funded a CUNY collaborative grant program for the 4-year colleges. And about 10 years ago, my boss, Jillian Small, decided to institute a similar program specifically for the community colleges. And about 3 or 4 years ago, we decided to, and that program was very discipline-based, and you could write grants in sociology or science or whatever it was, based on your discipline, based on your own research. And they would be reviewed by a committee of faculty from the senior colleges. And we would we'd write the proposals based on scores and give a few proposals out. But at the same time, I think we felt that after doing this for several years, that we needed to change the focus of the program to take into account the teaching burden of yourselves, of the faculty of community colleges being higher than at the senior colleges. And the need also to try to broaden the sense of scholarship outside of the sort of natural disciplines that you all have. And so we decided to focus on pedagogical research. Now, at the time, I don't think we really knew, at least I didn't know, much about what pedagogical research really meant. I knew that it would be interesting to pursue an initiative that would integrate this idea of research and teaching, and also it would be a win-win if it also led to sort of increased student success. So, so we wanted to broaden the scope of the program, create opportunities, and really also take into account the fact that you have limited resources here for research. So, in order to try and tell you more about the program, the way we've constructed this talk is to sort of trace its history and how it's evolved over the past few years, and what Effie and I have learned about pedagogical research. And we're going to do this through telling you a little bit about the workshops that we have every January. So it was always traditional with this program that there would be a January workshop for the faculty, which used to be a grant writing workshop. And you would all come to a workshop, and we'd have people who would say things like, read the instructions.
Really?
So it's like, okay, so, and I went to a few of those, and I'm like, okay, into that. We need something more substantive. We need something with a bit more sort of content. And since we didn't really actually know that much about the mechanics of pedagogical research coming into this, we decided to have people come and talk about pedagogical research who were real bona fide experts. So in the beginning, we had our first keynote speaker for the conference was someone from Columbia University's Teachers College, Nikki Edgecombe, and she spoke about the fundamentals of. Trying to see if
Maybe if you put it that.
Oh,
Oh,
no,
it's
it's
like
just
a
it's
solid.
no, it doesn't work on an LCD screen. So, and she would come and talk about the fundamentals of pedagogical research. I would say, to a certain extent, what is here is exactly where we were at in terms of our mindset. That we needed somebody who would talk to faculty about the fundamentals of pedagogical research, and then we'd have someone come from the National Science Foundation, actually a program director called Larry Suda, who would then talk about how, you would get one of these pedagogical research grants, and then 3 years later you'd all be writing NSF grants. This was our mindset at the time. It's changed. And then we would have presentations on the IRB and on assessments, and that's been true for all of these years. And the first year we ran the program out, we got 13 submissions, of which 10 for pedagogical research. Now, we've always accepted proposals outside of pedagogical research based on your own discipline. So it's not like you're locked into having to write grants on pedagogical research. We will still accept grants in all other areas of work that you do. If you're doing research in sociology, you can still write a sociological research grant. But we are definitely interested in promoting pedagogical research. So we got 13 submissions, 10 of them were pedagogical research. We funded probably 3 or so in the first year.
Yeah, the first year was.
Yeah. But we noted right away, at least the committee that reviewed the grants noted right away, that the research design sections of these proposals were poor. They weren't well written, they weren't well elucidated, and part of the reason for this is that the grants came in with great ideas, because you all teach, you all have good ideas about how to change your teaching, but it wasn't put in the context of a research proposal in terms of a hypothesis and assessment and all the rest of it. So we realized that we had a problem that we had to address. So the next year, our workshop focused on, with Pam Mills, who's a professor in chemistry from Hunter College, who's really interested in teaching methodologies, to come and talk about design, execution, and results. Okay, so we definitely were interested in having these proposals be not better written so much as have a better research design section with controls and assessment built in. And again, we focused definitely on assessment and IRB, and we still had this mindset that these were pilot grants for NSF funding. And we were still also very discipline based. We were interested that you would write grants, or we imagined that you would write grants in biology, chemistry, physics, sociology, whatever your discipline was, that's what you would be writing the grants on. And it took us a while to be weaned off that notion as a good notion. So last year, we realized that we're still interested in improving design, research design in the proposals, but we also realized that being focused on disciplines meant we focused on science. Because that's how, the research office is for all research, but I'm a scientist and I think that way. And it's easy to view pilot projects in terms of the National Science Foundation or the NIH, which is hard if you are on the humanities side of things. And I would come to presentations like this armed with all this data from NSF and NIH and different types of grants, and I would ask how many people in the room are scientists, and one person would put their hand up. So I realized, I was totally barking up the wrong tree. And so we decided instead to focus on something that would cross all disciplines. And these are high impact practices as determined by the American Association of Colleges and Universities. Are you all familiar with high impact practices from the AAC and U? Okay, so that's good. actually what we're going to talk about next. So, and this is this year's workshop that we have planned for January, and there are flyers here. You can hand out the flyers to everyone. We've completely ditched the idea of discipline-specific breakout sessions where you would discuss how to write a proposal in chemistry or sociology in favor of these high-impact practices. And there's three in particular that we're interested in, and we have breakout sessions in learning communities, and actually Kingsborough has a huge expertise in learning communities because you had a relationship with the MDRC, and Colleen Summo wrote a huge document based on research that was done here. We're interested in service learning and remedial developmental education, which isn't a high-impact practice. So we take the term sort of quite loosely in that sense. There are also two improvements to the program for this year. And Effie will talk more about the mechanics of the C3IRG program in a moment. But there are two weaknesses in the program that we've addressed. The first is that the awards were always made with tax levy funds. And so you would write a grant for April, we'd review it through the summer. Gillian wouldn't get her budget till August, then we'd announce the winners the end of August, beginning of September. Then by the time you've got your IRB, a few months later, you'd have like 3 months to spend the money. Because it's tax levy, which runs out at the end of June. So this year, we're going to change that a little. We're going to have $5,000 in RF funds. And the grants are usually $15,000 for a year. So a third of that will now be in RF funds, and we'll advise the winners earlier in the summer.
So you'll be able to also get an extension on that, that's what that means. I mean, you'll still, if you do get $10,000 in tax levy funds, that'll still have to be spent by the end of June, but then there'll be $5,000 if, say, you need to, you're doing research with students or whatever it is, there'll be a little bit more flexibility in terms of spending funds. So let me talk a little bit more about these high-impact practices, because this is sort of where we think it would be interesting to receive proposals. And the American Association of Colleges and Universities wrote a document, or at least they have an initiative called LEAP, Liberal Education and America's Promise. And their idea is that students should be exposed to at least one, or hopefully more, of these educational high-impact practices. Most of them are listed here, and they're probably practices that you're really familiar with, like first-year seminars, learning communities, internships, collaborative projects, service learning, undergraduate research, diversity and global learning. And what the ACU has done is to determine sort of the high impact, the effectiveness of these high impact practices in terms of student success. And I've listed a few of them here, and you obviously you can have this presentation, because when you look at the effectiveness of these practices, you can turn these attributes around into hypothesis-based questions for grants. And that's the idea of putting these here. For example, you put students in circumstances that demand they interact with faculty and peers about substantive issues. Okay, and the idea is that this increases persistence in a course. So let's take service learning. You're going to go out and, peanut whatever. That's not a river, it's the ocean. It's bait. You go, and so this sort of forces the students, the faculty, to interact. Maybe you'll have some other students who have done the course helping you to increase persistence. And you can ask questions about that. What if you split the students into two groups? One that has a sort of more sort of didactic book-based learning about cleaning up the bay, and one you take them out there, literally collect samples and measure this, that, and the other. And you measure some sort of attribute about that. And there are 5 different sort of effectiveness of high impact practices listed here. And you can actually, there's a book
the AACNU produces, and you can buy it from their website. It's like $10, but it's really has a lot of really good information in it. Increase the chance the students will experience diversity, receive more feedback, see how learning works in different settings, and these can all be turned into sort of questions. At the same time, the AACNU has issued this idea of issues and recommendations. Intentionally designed studies to examine the experiences of underserved students is sort of relatively easy for you because you have a huge number of underserved students, and how well do your studies serve underserved students specifically, and then can you design studies around that? Can you ask questions around that issue? Utilize or design measures that provide quantitative and qualitative assessments of student learning, strive to eliminate selection bias. These are issues in assessment that are really important. And again, these attributes can all be used as part of the design of a proposal. So many of the issues I guess we've had with the proposals that come in is that they don't really have a good, strong research design section. So I thought I'd just spend just this one sort of slide worth of information to try and talk about what goes into a strong proposal. Because all of the grants that we've had have great ideas. Some of them have like remarkable ideas that seem like this is going to be so cool, and then they all peter out because it's just really an idea that's fleshed out without having a specific goal in mind in terms of student success. And I think all proposals start with a really strong hypothesis or a strong question that you ask, and you just have to start there. But once you have a question, then the question is, how do I turn that question into a research proposal? How do I write a proposal around a question? And that means having a good methodology. And having a good methodology really determines on the outcome right away. So you have an idea for your teaching, well, what is the outcome I'm really looking for? Is it that more students will have better grades? I mean, you can take that as a good example. If that's the end point, then how do I go about assessing that? At the end, you're going to measure the grades or whatever. And if you start with how you're going to assess the end point, you can then fill in the gaps between asking the question and the assessment. And it's really just taking steps just like that to try and fill it in. And the assessment should always be both formative and summative. And if you're not sure of the difference between these, NSF has some really good information on formative and summative mechanisms for assessment. And basically, formative assessments are made during the course of the study so that you can change things as you go along. And summative means at the end of the study you sum it up and see how well it worked or it didn't. And in all of these, you need good control groups, students who aren't taking the module or the unit that you're designing. So with that, I think no. Okay, so we thought we would have like a sort of middle section of the presentation, because Effie will talk more about the mechanics of putting these proposals together, but we thought we'd talk, and we'll split this part up, about some of the grants that we've actually funded, some of the proposals that we've funded. And I'll talk just about this one from Francesco Crocio and Kathleen Offenholly. I'm not quite over. And Carlos Hernandez from Borough of Manhattan Community College. And they're really into game-based learning. And Francesco, who teaches English, and Kathleen, who teaches math, really like creating these electronic games with avatars. And they use it to teach, the one that I've seen uses it to teach mathematics. There will be some principle of mathematics that is solved, that you solve the problem using the mathematics, and the avatars, go off and solve some sort of problem they put into the game, and they create these computer games. And this particular proposal that they wrote was asking the question, well, do they really work? Is there really an impact on students' success if you introduce a game-based learning part of a proposal. So they measure different outcomes. They measure how well did the students enjoy the course, with or without the gaming? Or was there an impact on critical thinking or deep learning, as they called it? And they found that, if you have a control group that don't have the game-based learning, and then you have the test groups that do, that you can measure, your responses to questions to determine if, in fact, the game had any impact at all on student success. And I think that in their case, there was a positive impact in both, and they have the data. And they've written you can see their abstract on our website, and you can see the outcomes of their study, because they wrote a final report. So that's just one example. There are others from BMCC on health literacy and learning of English language, improving the teaching and learning of English language learners, testing oral models, from Kay Garrettson, who's not here, I guess. But anyway, so now Effie will talk about the
Well, so, one thing that I like to, because we often have been accused, rightly so, of being very sort of science focused, and let's talk about NSF grants and talk about all that. But the one thing that I really do like to point out, and this is backwards, that really since we started this initiative of promoting pedagogical research, we really have gotten, not just collaborations among faculty members in the same discipline or across colleges, but really like radically interdisciplinary collaborations, where you have, people in English collaborating with people in math, and you have health education and nursing is related to people in English and psychology. And also you have people that, from non-science. These, they've been applying for NSF funding, so these people, even though 2 of the PIs are from English, they're still figuring out a way to parlay this into doing educational research through the NSF. So there are opportunities out there for people that just aren't in, traditional scientific disciplines in terms of funding for this. That was backwards. So I just wanted to talk about these two just because we received, I solicit, that's not the right word. One of the guidelines is that for getting the grant is that you submit a final report at the end of, when you have your results, sort of at the end of the funding period. And just within the last couple of years, I've started posting these online. And I also changed it, because it used to be that we would get sort of a lengthy, more sort of manuscript type thing. And I said, that's not really what we want. Really what we want is just 1 or 2 pages just saying, what your research was, what your outcomes were, just sort of summarize what your outcomes were, and then sort of say, what sort of additional, are you planning on publications, are you planning on applying for external funding, have you gone to conferences, sort of what you've done with it, because that's really what we're interested in. We're interested in this grant be a stepping stone to you going on and expanding your research and doing other things. So, but these two I found were really interesting and exciting because, because these people are all at the MCC, but as you can see, it's very, there's a lot of variety. There's in terms of where the disciplines where these people are from. But this is actually, they'd already been doing some research on this, and they were doing an investigation of, because studies have shown that more and more students are registering in these online courses. But what they found is that there's a much higher attrition rate in these courses, so people register, but then there are a lot more people dropping out. And so they sort of wanted to examine why this is the case, and and if we can sort of do some investigation along disciplinary lines, people dropping out more in one type of course than another, and it's just sort of investigating, retention and how they can improve it. So retention on online courses and how to improve that. And then this study I just thought was so cool. There's actually Peter. Who was the original person? It wasn't Peter. It was, I forget, Claude. Anyway, it was originally another KBCC that was originally on this grant person. But I just thought this was such a great, because this really was a huge undertaking. In the sense of there are 4 different community colleges that were involved in this. They actually set up a C3IRG service learning committee on each one of these campuses. Each one of these schools produced their own data and results for this, that they submitted separate reports. But what they did is they had faculty did some faculty development in terms of developing service learning courses, and then they collected data on sort of the impact of how students responded to this, and did it make them more engaged in their community, and did it give them a more positive, did they do better in the course, did they have more positive reactions? So they had a whole series of results, and I think they're also working on publishing. The thing that was interesting about this is that they've really gone on, they're going to be also applying for some NSF funding, which I can talk more about, sort of what mechanisms are out there later if you want. But anyway, so these are just sort of some of that. I mean, then this is the, backwards. And then this is the current round. These are the ones that just were awarded this past September. And you can see too, I mean, here we have people in culinary arts and tourism. I don't know if you know these two faculty members, collaborating with an Earth and Planetary Sciences person here from KCC, and that's a great project. So as you can see, it's very, because we always sort of, and then you have people from speech and communication and theater. Theater people got one of these awards. So it's not just the sciences. I mean, I think that was part of our reasoning for doing the educational research, the pedagogical research, because it really opened up to, the number of different disciplines, the different combinations of people that could apply for this funding. So this, I threw this slide in here because, I mean, this is sort of, actually it's very NSFB focused, so this is very sort of sciencey focused, but these are sort of, but it's not just actually, because if you do pedagogical research, I don't know if any of you do pedagogical research, these are sort of the three, if you're interested in looking for external funding at the federal level, these are probably the 3 documents that you should be aware of. And particularly this last one that just came out in August of this year, because this is actually, it's a joint publication by the DOE and the NSF. And so oftentimes if you are, if there's something that wouldn't be appropriate for an NSF instrument, if you're doing pedagogical research in one of the other fields, there's also, I mean, I'm not entirely, but there, I don't want to get into the whole story, but the Institute of Education Sciences, which is the research arm of the Department of Ed, does fund some of these types of research projects too. So now I'm getting into this, I'm just going to, this is where I'm going to talk about the C3IRG to sort of get to the nitty-gritty. I'm just going to put these all up. So the overall program goals, these are graying out, but one which is sort of, this is like the mission of the Office of Research sort of overall, but really to promote research productivity. I'm going backwards now again. To stimulate just collaborations, multi-campus, multi-departmental, just stimulate collaborations among faculty members, ensure that there are dedicated funds for community college faculty members, which Avrom had mentioned. And also, as I said, these are all these grants, I mean, whether it be the PSC CUNY grants or the collaborative grants, I mean, these are all really sort of intended to be stepping stones, like, to help you get some preliminary research so that you can go off and seek funding from other sources. And then also, as Avrom mentioned, since he and I took over this program, I guess, in 2011, and we've started this pedagogical research initiative, so we're really interested in promoting pedagogical research among faculty. God, I'm going backwards again. I hate this. Let me just keep my hand on this. No, I'm not. Did you leave some weird slides in?
No.
What's happening? Wait. I think you just left those little slides, and that's from my old presentation. All right, so eligibility. So lead co-PIs must be tenure track community college faculty. So no, with instructional lines. No, I mean, you have to be tenure track faculty to be a lead co-PI. And it must involve internal and cross-campus collaborations. Obviously, it's a collaborative grant, so it has to be involved with 2 or more faculty members. Faculty who received an award in the previous 2 rounds of the C3 are not eligible to apply in the current round. And then this is, again, this sort of putting that straight out as curriculum development is a bit of a sticky wicket when you're looking at pedagogical research, because obviously, oftentimes, if you're doing pedagogical research, it might involve developing a course, but it must be embedded in some sort of experimental design. So you can develop a course, but then you're assessing the effectiveness, the success of that course. So it wouldn't just be, I'm going to develop a course and that's that. So that's it. But then also it shouldn't be, it's not for, writing books or whatever, media development or any of that. And then as I had said, I mentioned all awardees must submit. And I said a 1-page summary, but it could be, 1 or 2 pages or but it should, at the end of the funding period. So the project description, and this is all in the guidelines, which are all online. So it's a 5-page narrative, which both of the collab grants are. So you need a hypothesis, as Avrom mentioned, which states the specific aims or goals. An introduction to the research question being posed that includes a brief review, obviously. split review is pretty standard. And then a methods section that describes the methodology. So you're defining what population you're being studied, the procedures following, the instruments you've developed, and how the results will be analyzed. And you also, I mean, one of the problems that we've run into too, not problems, but oftentimes, as we said, you know, we'll get a lot of proposals that have a great idea, and they're saying, well, we're interested in, I mean, I can't even think about, you know, developing some sort of mechanism using clickers in class, or, you know, something, and it'll be a great idea, but the thing is, you have to sort of follow, everything that you do, you have to follow through to the logical conclusions. Because a lot of times, you'll get proposals that have a good idea, but then it won't be, so if you're going to work with students, you know, how are you going to recruit the students? How, you know, can you even do, you know, I mean, you sort of have to get into all the questions of practically how you're going to carry out the research. I mean, those are the sort of questions that often come up when they say, well, you know, we don't know if they really have an idea of, as I said, on a practical level, how they'll carry out the research. So, and then also the role of each investigator should be clearly stated. So how the proposals are evaluated, so that this is the case for both of the collab grants, but it's on their technical merit, their feasibility, as I'd said, and then also if it seems like that there's something that this is research that is capable of being developed into a larger funding, or, you know, into a larger project that has legs. We want it to have legs. So, and then also the reviewers will assess, you know, you must submit a CV, obviously, so the scholarly achievement, including previous publication, funding history. And then also for junior faculty, obviously, if you don't have as much of a record, you know, you do take, if, you know, overall promise for the faculty member into account. So 2 faculty experts from the relevant field, from whatever it is, we divide them up. Usually more, I mean, actually the pedagogical research proposals, we have one committee, and it'll be, many of the members of the committee are faculty members from senior colleges that have done pedagogical research, that have received significant external funding. But we also do go to the MDCRC, the C3IRG, the Community College Research Fund. They've been very helpful for us too. So there are some external members on the committee. And they're ranked numerically, and this is more or less like the NSF is, or like it used to be. But you know, 1 is the best score, 5 is for the lowest score. So, and then you also will get, you know, 5.5. You'll get some decimal ratings. But we also do send, one of the things we've started doing, I guess it's just only been in the last 2 years, that we will send you reviews. And actually, we've even gotten feedback, even for people that have not gotten the award, because we'll send them the reviewers' comments, and we'll say, oh, you know, they'll like thank us. They'll say, well, that was very helpful that you sent us the comments, even though they didn't get the award. So I thought, you know, so it's, I mean, it is very helpful. I mean, and I must say that for the most part, the people that we've gotten, particularly that review the pedagogical research proposals, have been very thoughtful, and they've, you know, written extensive comments, and it's, you know, I do think that it's, you know, it's
Can I
very,
interrupt for a
Yes,
question?
sure.
If you get comments back and you modify your proposal based on the comments, you can resubmit
Oh,
the
yeah.
following year.
Absolutely.
It's not like
Yeah, we encourage resubmissions. Yeah. I mean, probably, I don't want to be speaking out of turn, but I mean, if you're really interested in resubmitting it, if you contact us, I mean, obviously, we wouldn't be able to read them because, you know, that would be a conflict of interest, but if you're interested in finding some sort of mentoring, some person, sort of an outside person that would be, like to read, you know, we could probably find a mentor for you that can help you with the proposal, at least read through it for you. Right, Avrom?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we've done that before. We've done that before, so. So yeah, so the maximum award is $1,500. The funding period, as we did change the date of the funding, is September 1 through June 30th, 2015. And again, that's with the caveat. It used to be all tax levied money, so you always had to spend it by the end of June. But now, this year, 5,000 of it is going to be on the RF. So yes.
You need 15,000, right?
Yes.
What did I say?
1,500.
Oh, I'm sorry, 15,000. Yes. $15,000. Yes. So 5,000 is going to be in RF funding. Probably, I think the award period is still going to stay the same, but if you have a legitimate reason for needing an extension on the funds, on the RF portion of the funds, I'm certainly be approved. And then the funding categories, this is standard budget stuff, so OTPS, so supplies, equipment, travel and field expenses, personnel, so that would be research associates, research assistants. We encourage you, at all possible, to involve your students in your research, if that's possible, because another one of our initiatives is encouraging undergraduate research, so we like to have students involved in authentic research experiences. You can get release time at adjunct rates, 1 month of summer salary, fringe benefits, and the way, I don't think that's actually on the slide, it's in the guidelines, but because we're sort of continually, I mean, as we learn functionally how these grants land on the ground and how, you know, the things that, how the faculty members spend the money and what's, you know, useful for them in terms of how to allocate the money, there is now a $10,000 cap that can be spent on either course release time or summer salary. So the cumulative total that you can spend on course release and summer salary is $10,000, which we sort of generally figured would be about enough for course release time for two co-PIs. I mean, every school has a different rate, but that was sort of our aim. So yeah, and so then also fringe benefits would be included in that. So that doesn't include fringe benefits. I did write that down. So $10,000 cumulative max allocation for this time and for summer salary, which is new. So hopefully that'll and then obviously, as Avrom had mentioned, particularly with, I mean, you always need IRB approval, even if it's exempt, but particularly for if you're doing pedagogical research and you're involving your students, obviously this is much more relevant to you. So you do need IRB approval, and we need that before you can use the funds and commence your research. So we need that, you know, the notification, the letter that you get from the IRB office, the Office of Performance. So the submission this year, and I believe the submission process is totally up now. We do it on, it's all online now, it's all online submission on our website. It's through FormStack. So the deadline is April 4th, which is a Friday, April 4th, 2014 at 5 o'clock. So you submit 2 documents. There's the signature page, and then there's the proposal, which includes all the items. So it's going to be, so you'll scan it in. So you'll, you know, convert it into one PDF or whatever, you know, however you do. But it's going to be one document. It's going to include your narrative and your references and your budget and your bio sketch and all of that. So, but this is all spelled, I mean, this is discussed more fully in the guidelines, which are also online, the guidelines are like that. But it's all part of the online application form. So, and this is also, I mean, we handed out the, oh no, this is the page, I'm sorry, it's not about the workshop. But so this is what the page looks like, we just put this up today. So the guidelines are here, and then this is, so you just click on that, and that will take, this is the online submission form, which is in FormStack, and these are the 2 forms in Word that then you fill out, and you can convert it to a PDF and submit. So it's worked out really well for us having everything online. It used to be everything was emailed, or everything, you know. And actually this year we're even going to try to do when you get the award, to have all those submissions done online too, so we don't have to go through the whole process of, you know, scanning, faxing, emailing, and all the things that we've done in the past. We're going to try to streamline that process as well. So, oh, and I just showed you that. Anyway, so that's me. So, I mean, I have a couple more slides. I don't know, there's been a lot of flux. I don't know how closely you follow what's going on in terms of educational research at the NSF. It used to be that the main program that people that were doing pedagogical research would apply to was called the TWOS, which was Transforming Undergraduate Education in the Sciences. And they've actually gotten rid of that program, and there's a certain amount of flux in terms of what's going on, so I don't know if you're interested.
You have mistake on previous pages, was January 13th.
Oh, I'm sure it probably was. On this page?
Yeah. And it's supposed to be 14th.
Tuesday,
Yeah,
January 14th,
yeah.
2014.
Yeah.
Just
Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. No, you're right. Oh, because he did. Oh, you know the reason. Yes. The workshop page is not completely done. The application form is out because we wanted to get that up to make sure that people wanted to apply, but we're actually still working on the workshop page. We finally finalized our program, but the workshop page is not totally done yet. That's why that still says that link is not correct. So it still has last year's information. Actually, it might be completed now. We left our trusted colleague back at the office to finish up all the C3IRG stuff. So I mean, I can talk about the NSF stuff, or I can just stop there and take questions.
And this meeting, based on vacation time or something? Like, if we're teaching here on the same day, how would it?
Well, you know, we run into this problem with Kingsborough because you're on the different quarterlies. I mean, we schedule it this time because most colleges are at break during this time, and it's easy for them to get. And we've gotten feedback that this is the time in January that works best for most people in getting there. And we really do apologize that it always seems to be not at a good time for Kingsborough. But it's really there's no time that's going to be good for everybody. So and that's sort of this. We've been doing it in January for ever, haven't we?
And we don't videotape.
We don't do it.
Any information online or something?
Oh, well, it is all the. I mean, we do put all the. Yeah, I mean, if you check the website now, we link everybody's presentation is up there. We link it to the program if they have a presentation. So I mean, to the extent, yeah, we don't videotape it. We don't put a videotape up, but everybody's presentation is there. So.
The presentation, like whatever is
We'll give you this.
Yeah, I'll send it to Houston. Yeah.
If you really want to go, you could either get a substitute to teach your class, or you could take it as a day, and it would be a legitimate reason to not have class. So.
It's professional development, so.
You guys have any other questions?
Yeah, what was about part-time? Because I'm part-time, how much I can do? Should I do something or not? I'm a part-time faculty. If there is
So you're
any-
not tenure track.
I'm not really tenure track, I'm not full-time here.
Well, you could be a co-PI. You could work on a grant. You could participate
some,
in the
but I
research, but
couldn't
you
be
couldn't
this.
be the lead. You couldn't be the lead. Yeah. You would actually you could be on the grant, but the grants do allow, as I said, they allow for research associates, so you could be a consultant on the grant. You could get some funding from the grant to do your research, but you
So
couldn't
if I
be
have
a
my
PI.
own research and basically idea for research, I don't have any support period. Also, if I have some ideas for research and or should I just?
Well, this is collaborative anyway. I mean, you would still have to. No, you can't apply.
I will have to. I will have to volunteer people, and I can probably talk to someone like some full time and make them to be lead on my on research that they, well, not my research,
Yeah.
but research that I would like to run. As a scientist, I mean, you would like to run some research.
Is there a cap on the amount that consultants can get? No. I mean, again, I can't negotiate your relationships for you.
No.
I mean, if you can find somebody that could just be a figurehead PI, but the way that the rules go is that it has to be somebody who is a tenure track faculty. I mean, the purpose of this is to give research funding to full-time CUNY faculty. But also, as I said, I mean, you could get money as a consultant.
There is a fund through the PSC CUNY specifically for adjunct research. Unfortunately, I think the deadline has already passed, but don't quote me on that. But you, as an adjunct, could apply as a part-timer, could apply for your own grant. It's through the PSC CUNY, and
You could go to the website, the PSC CUNY website, and they have an adjunct professional development fund and a PO professional development fund. So.
But I don't think it's already done.
I don't know what the deadline for the big PSC CUNYs is
it's
January
for the
15th.
full-timers it is, but Ron was
So-
applying for an adjunct one, so
Oh,
I think he
I
already
don't-
put it in.
We don't have any, by the
So,
way,
I
we
know
don't
it's
have
totally
anything to do with
separate.
PSC CUNY.
Yes,
We don't know.
But how would you wait for
Yeah.
you to have
Yeah.
total control of your own project?
Yeah.
So,
And the PSC CUNYs are due December 15th.
December
I think
15th, that's
it's-
right, not January 15th, there's no problem with that, yeah, right.
All of them, or some already. I'll check.
Yeah, that would be on the RF website.
I don't mind to collaborate, but it maybe nobody is actually as interested in a project itself.
You can get somebody interested, I mean, if it's a good project, it seems like.
So we have
there's somebody looking for a course for this.
These people are interested. So, the other thing I wanted to add to what you had to say is, you mentioned having mentors who could review the proposals. KCTL also has a writing group that reviews people, look for pairs of people to review writing. So that may be another place to find someone to read a proposal if there's someone in your area who might be interested. And I also just wanted to mention that internally, Kingsborough has a deadline of submitting a notice of intent to submit an application. For the C3IRG grants, we do generally ask for those applications to be in 2 weeks before the deadline. So 2 weeks before April 4th, I'm not sure if there's a break right around there. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't, but there'll be more information about that. Now that I've heard all of this great information, I'll give more details. But I have copies of that form here. If you want to come with you, look at it. It's also on the KCTL website.
It's only the
Any grant needs that notice. So for this one, we usually ask for a month, but for internal stuff, we have the deadline.
And also, I do want to emphasize, I mean, Avrom and I have a tendency to sort of focus on the pedagogical research, but I would like to emphasize that what I like to say, which sort of sounds like a comment, is that any excellent proposal will be funded. I mean, we actually funded, this year there were 3 pedagogical research and 4 disciplinary-based projects that were funded. So, I mean, it's not, in no way are you being,
How do these grants fund any kind of creative works that aren't pedagogical? If she's an artist and she wants to pursue.
well, it has to be research. I mean, it has to be, these are research grants. I mean, for the most part, I'm correct.
That's right.
The PSC CUNY does award creative endeavors and awards, book writing, and it'll fund those types of projects, but these are research.
These have to have a research question.
Yeah, it has to.
So
It's
you have
not
to be
just,
exploring
it's not
a
creative
hypothesis.
endeavors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not creative endeavor, it's
Yes.
That's correct.
exploring a
Yeah.
hypothesis.
That's right.
But what if it's a creative hypothesis?
Well,
I mean, it's.
we have funded humanities-based proposals that are based in the humanities where I wouldn't say the hypothesis was incredibly strong, but there was something they were testing, and there was a methodology attached to it. If proposals come in that we don't deem to be real research proposals, we send them back. If they don't conform to the principles, to a basic principle of a research proposal.
Yeah, it's almost like the scientist's brain is being applied, whether it's science or not. It's still a scientific process.
Yes, correct, absolutely.
But you could also embed, I don't know what your creative endeavor is, but you could also embed your creative endeavor in your teaching. And build that into your pedagogy somehow and involve your students and then, test that, then assess that, which would be another way of, again, I don't know what you do, but that's another way of approaching this. So.
Can you speak also to the competitiveness of the process?
Avrom went through we get anywhere between 13 and 20 proposals. It's about like a 25 to 30% success rate. It's actually pretty. It's much less competitive than the big C3IRG grant, which gets many more proposals. But it's so it's decent. You have as I said. I've been doing this for 4 years now, 3 or 4 years. It is. If you have a strong proposal that's well thought out, if you have good research design, you have a very, very good chance of getting funding. I should say.